The Honorable today's speakers, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you all and good afternoon from Indonesia. We're delighted to welcome you to this panel session of the third day of 52nd APAN hosted by Universitas Islam Indonesia in collaboration with APAN Secretariat. All participants, ladies and gentlemen, in this very first agenda, we would like to listen a keynote speech by Mr. Manuel Hechanova. But first of all, let me share you a quick introduction about Mr. Manuel. So, Mr. Manuel Hechanova first joined the University of Guam in 1996 as a Management Information Systems faculty member for the School of Business and Public Administrations. In 1999, he accepted a teaching position for the Computer Studies Division at the University of Maryland, University College, Asia Division, Guam. Then in 2011, he returned back to the University of Guam as an administrator to lead the telecommunications and distance education operations. Primarily, he focused in regional communication issues and developing the online education environment. In addition, ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, Mr. Manuel accepted the additional role as the interim chief information officer, and he currently oversees the management and operations of the campus network, research computing resources, and ICT development opportunities. All participants, ladies and gentlemen, to save our time, please welcome Mr. Manuel. The screen is yours.
Off a day, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I really wish I could be there in person. I think Indonesia is such a wonderful country. I hope one day to visit you and to meet you in person. Um, but I know it's going to take some time understanding the world situation. But I am honored to be here today and to deliver you some information about the work that we've done at the University of Guam, specifically on the Guam Open Research and Exchange Network. I'm going to share my screen with you. I have a short presentation prepared for you, and I will share my screen with you. And welcome to GOREX. Welcome to a project that was in the making for many years. I remember meeting then President David Lassner from the University of Hawaii. He made a trip to the island about 5 or 6 years ago just to see how things would play out, how it would be if we were to establish a research education or research exchange point on the island of Guam. Some of you are not familiar with Guam. I'm going to explain to that a little bit later about where we are, that little dot in the Pacific. But this is GOREX. This is the Guam Open Research and Education Exchange. Here's a great map produced by our friends at PIRE, the Pacific Island Research Education Network. And there's Guam. It's a little bit enhanced, but just to show you, there's the basic shape of our island. It's a pretty small island. In the middle part, we're about 4 to 6 miles wide, and top to bottom, we're about 25 miles from top to bottom. A really small island, small population of about 170,000 people. We have 3 military bases, U.S. military bases on Guam. We are the westernmost United States trust territory. So we're a trust territory of the United States. We are U.S. citizens, and we have one university, and that's the University of Guam. We have a community college called Guam Community College, but I work at the University of Guam. It's a great place to be. We've been in existence at the University of Guam for over 65 years. The map that you see on the screen now just shows the cable connections that we have going out to the different various research partners that we have. The next slide shows us the bigger picture of how we participate on a global network of research and education partners. So you can see Guam over here to the left side of your screen, and you can just see how we're just participating in larger research education networks. So here we are, So let's get down to a real, where are we at now? And we are now here in the Western Pacific Ocean. Guam is the largest island in Micronesia. There's a chain of islands here in Micronesia. We also have our friends in the Federated States of Micronesia. So there are several smaller islands outside of Guam, above Guam, and below Guam. And this is us. This is our 2010 population of 170,000. We're hoping, well, the 2020 census was kind of delayed, but we probably know that our population has gone up to at least maybe 185, 190,000 people. So we're a small island, kind of crowded sometimes, but it's home. So why Guam? Well, gosh, if you look at the cable undersea map, we are just perfectly situated in the Western Pacific to handle and to accommodate a variety of landing points on Guam. If you look around the Asia Pacific area and the coast, you'll see a lot of good coastal cities, a lot of connecting points as well. But we have just served as a nice intermediate point for a lot of people looking to be on US soil. So why Guam again? We have 5 active cable landing stations throughout the island. On our western coast, you'll see Changisan Point, Tumon Bay. We have 2 locations in Pidi, and our last one in Agate. And on the right side of your screen, you'll see, wow, all these cables have a presence on Guam. The cables that are not highlighted, that are not color coded, are dated back from 2010. And as early as our first cable was in 1997. So for many years, we didn't have, very much interest. We had a few cables come in, and it wasn't until the last 10 years, less than that, last 7 years, that we've been really popular. So when you look at the cable installations on Guam in the past 7 years, it's been amazing. The technology has allowed us to drop these cables, plan the cables, and connect them into the island faster than we have ever been able to do before. So currently, everything above the green and on above that from July 2020 are all active cables on our island. And if you just count it really quickly, we have 11 cables that are active on our small little island. For many years, these cables just transited through our island. There was never any data sharing. There was never any data center that took advantage of these cables. They were just a transit point that helped make the transition into from long distances a little bit shorter and segmented the lines for better maintenance. So a lot of these cables just basically transited now. But we're changing that. Guam is becoming this place where, wow, we can actually have really nice data centers. So the ones that are highlighted are just these amazing new cables that have come in recently and giving us more opportunities as an island to share data not only from Guam, but to share data between the existing cables through the cable landing stations, through one of the cable landing stations that they have. And the yellow highlight on the bottom are the cables that are planned. So, looking at us, Hong Kong, Guam, hopefully by the end of this year, that's going to be a line for us. And most particularly for you, for Indonesia, the Echo and the Bifrost lines are going to bring you into our area. We're going to be neighbors pretty soon. We're going to have lines that share, that connect us. And I think that's just a wonderful opportunity for us to look at how we can improve research and education in your region as well as ours, and to share our research. So I'm just excited that to look at by the end of 2024 or mid 2024, when the Echo and Bifrost lines are ready for service, our small island will have 14 active cables. I wouldn't ever think that something like this would be possible for our small little island. So a little bit of information about Gorex. We are with the University of Hawaii, and it's funded also by the University of Hawaii and a National Science Foundation grant. We're supported by research and efforts done by the Pacific Islands Research and Education Network. And we started our online presence back in January 2018. So we've been busy in the past 3 years, and just trying to make more connections and trying to find new ways to expand this research and education network. We're located at the cable landing station down in PD, Guam. So in that map, in the previous map, we're in the southwest corner of the island. And The really cool thing about Gorex and being part of the Gorex is that you help improve that research resiliency in our networking. So the more paths and circuitous paths that we can find to help each other to connect to each other, it's just amazing. It, it's a blessing for Guam because a lot of times, we're our small island, we didn't have this connectivity between the cable landing stations. If my provider was using a different connection and another provider was using somebody else, literally our traffic would take a circuitous route around the ocean, go to California, and then come back into the island. So the latency was just amazingly high. And now with our research and education networks, we've been able to drop that latency and improve connectivity between our hands, between our partners and our collaborators. Some more things about Gorex. We do have authorized personnel to be remote hands in the facility. We've made arrangements with the facility owners. So we have authorized personnel who can go into the facility, and we are the remote hands for Gorex. So we have network engineers dedicated to troubleshooting, maintenance, and connectivity improvements and installations at the facility. The cable landing station is 10.5 miles or 16.8 kilometers away from the University of Guam, which is roughly about a 15-minute drive from the campus down to the facility. So it doesn't take us long to get there and to respond to any issues that will be in the station. The programming and the management of the equipment itself is handled by the University of Hawaii. So we're just remote hands at any time that they need. We have current connections at the Gorex station. These are all at 100 gigabits. Of course, the University of Hawaii connects to the Gorex machine at 100 gigabits. That's using the CUS line. We also have AARNet, RANS, Arena Pack, and of course, the University of Guam. So from our campus, we have a direct dedicated lease line that takes us from the campus directly to the Gorex station at 10 gigabytes. Upcoming connections. Wow, we're going to have Singapore, Guam. That's going to come up real soon, as well as our friends from the Philippines, the Research, Education, and Government Information Network over there in the Philippines. They reached out to us about in 2019, looking to try to connect to the Gorex as well. And they finally got a vendor who's going to be able to provide that connection to them. And they're going to come in also at 10G. And we're also looking at friends from SciNet, from the Science Information Network in Japan, connecting to Gorex as well. So considering now when you look at Indonesia and being able to expand your connectivity out from Guam to reach the Philippines, to reach Japan, just a wonderful opportunity. But let's talk about how this has been for us, for the University of Guam, and having access to this research education cyber infrastructure. That's been great. When we apply for our research grants, one of the most, our recent research grant is from EPSCoR. The, it's a National Science Foundation grant that helps to the help prioritize and encourage competitiveness within our research institutions. So for us, that means big money. For us, it's a 20 million grant over 5 years to study, of all things, coral research. We have issues around our island. We've got reefs that need to be researched. We have coral bleaching that needs to be researched, and we have lots of data that we're capturing as these field researchers go out. So having that cyber infrastructure and having that need to just be able to gather information on campus, get it from the field, process it, put it through its studies, and make that information available not only for campus research assistants and other programs, but to share it with other collaborators across the globe. The other thing that the Gorex has offered us as well is the reduced need for commercial bandwidth. As you can imagine, a small island, hey, we're kind of competitive, particularly with our internet access. But we do have 4 internet providers. You're saying on a small island, we have 4 internet providers, and it's competitive, which is really nice. We're lucky to have this type of competition because it gives us more options on helping us control our costs. But being a member of Gorex has helped us reduce our commercial bandwidth. And as an academic institution, a lot of our traffic goes out to academic websites. So we're looking at saving about 33% on our commercial bandwidth costs, which is really a big deal for us because it's it's expensive. Although we have competition, the commercial bandwidth, at least for our university, even for an educational rate, does get expensive. The other impact that it had when we adopting the GORAX and switching to become a partner and to a member of the GORAX was a redesigned campus network. Many of our campus network previously was just really like traditional universities, just a closed campus, and traffic flow was just bottlenecked through switches and switches and that were just designed to just be on campus and go out one internet connection. Uh, we had issues also with natting. We used to use NAT through our provider, our internet provider as well, so that kind of bottlenecked things. And we were a very closed campus. Redesigning our campus network wasn't easy. We appreciate the help that we got from the Network Startup Research Center at the University of Oregon. They provided us with a campus engineering and redesign support. So that was really a wonderful blessing from them to help us look at our campus network and reorganize it so that we can look at traffic that was destined for R&E to go out through R&E routes, and those that were destined for truly commercial activity on commodity networks to go out through those commodity networks. So it was a nice opportunity for us to really take back and bring our campus network up to a 21st century, just saying that, wow, we've got a better campus network now that just supports our research and education. The other really good plus of this was we developed some really highly skilled network engineers. The Network Startup Research Center and this whole process of campus redesign really helped our network engineers hone their skills and learn new things, BGP routing, IP security, best practices for network design and network installations. It was really a great opportunity for our own in-house technical staff to become that more proficient in the campus network design and its maintenance. So we're really thankful that this helped us become and developed our local talent. And the other cool thing about it is that we realize now we're not just this small dot in the ocean anymore. And that's just always been this stereotype for Guam, we're just this small dot in the middle of the ocean. But now we're a participant in global network performance because we have research and education traffic that passes through our office, goes through the GOREX lines and goes out to the rest of the world, that we're part of this really big picture that helps improve the research and education network globally. So we're really proud to be a member of that team. This was just a short presentation, but to give you just an idea of what GOREX is and how we want to keep pushing and developing our footprint for helping the research and education networks. My email address is on the screen. Feel free to email me. I'd be happy to point you in a direction of what we need to get your institution or your interest into GOREX, and I can introduce you to our team members who can answer questions for you. And our website, though a bit dated, and it will be updated soon, gorex.uog.edu. You'll find some really good information about GOREX and what we plan to do there and where we started from. So the top part, I just want to say Sijus Masi. That's how we say in our native language in Guam. It's called Chamorro. We say Sijus Masi, basically means thank you. Thank you for your time. And I saw a few hands being raised. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them and do my best to help you understand what we're trying to do at the University of Guam in collaboration with the University of Hawaii and our GOREX effort.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Manuel, for very great and also insightful presentations in this event. All right, all participants, ladies and gentlemen, another keynote session. We would like to invite Dr. Jennifer, the Director, International Networks, Indiana University. And well, it is very interesting to know that Dr. Jennifer leads the international networks at Indiana University team, which has a 25 years history of supporting the use of transoceanic networks to Europe, Africa, and Asia with a focus on science engagement, measurement, monitoring, and advocacy for end users in developing nations. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Jennifer. The time is yours.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And as Manny said, I really wish we could be there in person to share this information and to get more of an experience of being in Indonesia. I know when I was there for Bandung, it was just such an absolutely amazing experience. What I'm going to talk about today very briefly is it's not exactly a new collaboration, it's the growth of a collaboration for the Asia Pacific Oceania Network, or APONET. Many of you are familiar with the Asia Pacific Ring collaboration. This was 7 partners. We signed an MOU in December of 2017. And the Asia Pacific Ring had a focus on coordinating capacity and being able to offer backups. And you can see this is what that network looked like from 4 years ago now. Basically a figure 8 with an extra loop on it. You notice what's really missing from here is what we just heard about, which is Guam. In the last 3-4 years, that's really become a hub for most of the connectivity in the region. So when this MOU ran out and when Transpac 5 received funding this past fall, we started some additional conversations with the partners to try to see what could we do in terms of growing the collaboration we had. We think that by having a group together, we can offer a better set of resources than any one of us could do on our own. And we've all seen how much the growth in data has happened. Manny mentioned that they were sharing coral reef data, but all science today is collaborative science. It's multidisciplinary. You've got teams of experts. You need to share data sets. And we thought by pulling in some additional partners, we could really contribute to the RNA networking space in a much stronger way. So we added partners. From the original 7 partners, we added ARNet from Australia, KISTI in Korea, Rayons in New Zealand, and University of Hawaii in their support of GOREX to the original set. And when we signed the MOU just this summer, this is the new network. The old network had been a figure 8 with an extra loop. You can barely even see that on this. And as mentioned, Guam is really in the center of things. Guam and Hawaii are really our nexus points for these networks going forward. Like the APR agreement, this had a primary purpose of supporting highly available connectivity and backup traffic. We're going to be identifying specific backups and looking at BGP resiliency. Part of this is in support of the new LHC high luminosity experiments that are coming online this fall. But we also wanted to have additional cooperation and coordination. We wanted to be able to better support network research and services. With all of that connectivity, we can actually clear off entire 100 gig paths for people who need to run large scale experiments. We want to support additional application development and support because all of these applications are growing and changing. We need to be able to troubleshoot end-to-end connectivity. We wanted to be able to support external experiment support, such as Fabric, which is a great test bed funded out of the NSF here in the US. A couple of you have heard me talk about the routing working group in a couple sessions today. The preferred route identification resolution of routes that aren't right is really critical. As this new capacity gets added in, Manny mentioned the Singapore Guam link. When that comes up, what's going to happen to the routes that are already in place? How is traffic going to shift unintentionally or intentionally? We're also looking at how to share measurement data. We have a NetSage dashboard that we're starting off. We're going to be growing it eventually, we hope, for that entire set of partners. Here's some contact points. We've got a good website. We've got a press release in 3 different languages, and that's my email as well. And just, this is the collaboration. This is 11 different groups coming together to build something that's better than any one of us can do on our own. So thank you. Oh, I think I've caught her off guard. Perhaps there are some questions from the audience. Or perhaps Manny has a comment you'd like to make.
Hey, Dr. Jennifer, good to see you again. It's been a while.
Nice to see you too. I was using my Gorex mug just the other day in my office. We just started going back.
Yes, I think when we look at the interest for the new lines, how do you see the commercial activity impacting our efforts as well? With Echo lines and Bifrost, how do you think that commercial activity interest is going to help us, or is it going to be something we're just going to be competing with?
So I think there's a number of things going on. I think as R&E connections are growing, often we can work with the commercial vendors to have additional connectivity. One of the challenges we face, though, is because many universities have both commercial and R&E connections, is making sure the right data is going over the right path. When you're sharing large-scale scientific data sets, you really want that to go over in an R&E path because we can control it better. They're generally not as rate limited. There are additional shaping that we can do as well. So I think it's something to watch going forward and a really important question. We've got a question online. Garrett asks, how will the partners balance the loads across the different levels of capacity of the contributing links? That's a really great question. We're looking at that right now. Part of what the mindset behind having all those different links and connectivity within APONET was to have redundancy and resilience. June Murai has a lovely map where he shows the current Asia connections with an overlay of the Ring of Fire, the volcanic and tsunami activity in the Asia Pacific region. So all of that activity means the outages happen. And when an outage happens, it can often be for quite a while. So we've got all of those links more for the redundancy than for the need of capacity right now. Right now, most of these links are undersubscribed. In my case, the Transpac link, it's a 100 gig link, the Transpac PacWave link between Tokyo and Singapore. It's generally carrying under 10 gigs of traffic on a regular basis. So we haven't had to worry about that too much. We're going to be watching the routes as much as anything, though. Any other questions? I'm not on the Hoover app. I'm only seeing the Zoom ones, so I don't know.
That makes two of us.
Francis, perhaps you could tell us if there's any questions online, or maybe you have some questions for Manny and myself.
I'm actually looking at it. No, I think that was from Garrett. But to me,
yes.
It's amazing where we started with the Asia Pacific Ring, and when you look at APONET now, it's a real complicated network. It's no longer a ring. And
drawing the map was actually quite complicated, and I'm very grateful to our partners at Pacific Wave, who had an amazing communications office who managed to take what most of us basically drew as a pile of spaghetti. A few of our first attempts were quite rough, and now we've got this beautiful map. I just think it really shows how much the connectivity has grown and changed over time. Because 3-4 years ago, the Asia Pacific Ring basically captured most of the 100 gig links between the US and Asia. And now there's so many more and so much more connectivity. I think one of the challenges we have, and part of why we formed it, is to have this better coordination. I know that Gorex has seen that as well, with the growing partners and the growing links there, trying to balance the different possibilities there. Gorex just moved to a new facility too, didn't it, Manny? Or just in the last year, I think.
Yes, I can't find that unmute button fast enough. Yes, so we moved from our Tumon location where we initially came in at 2018, and we just moved recently last year to the facility in PD.
Great. Are there other questions or comments from the audience?
Jennifer, I got one comment. The other thing to note is that now, because of the collaboration in the procurement itself, we have long-term links rather than just a a 3-year contract links. We have 10 years and 15 years. And that tells you something about the vision of the community, that this is a long-term thing. And it's not a short-term project by project. And then we can focus a little bit more of our energy and hopefully money into the other activities, the applications, the capacity building. I think I really appreciate the move, because different groups of partners have come together as consortiums to buy long-term links, IRUs.
I think that's a great comment. And one of the things that's grown out in part of this APONET collaboration is the consortium that's supporting this new connectivity between Guam and Singapore. Jun Marai had been speaking with a vendor who had offered him a really wonderful deal on a 15-year IRU. He approached us, but because our funding model is through a governmental funding agency, we only have 5 years of money at a time. We fully expect to be around for 15, but we can't sign contracts 15 years in length. However, Internet 2 can. Then we started talking to other partners. ARNet came on. Gorex is offering support on their end. Singaran is offering support on their end. And so between the suite of us, we're able to assure the community of a 100 gig path that none of us could do this on our own. So it's really just another fabulous way of how the community is coming together, much in just a different pattern than we have in the past. So I think that's a really great point. Thank you, Francis.
Jennifer, we have another question on the chat. It's addressed to you.
Oh. It says, what level of commitment is required if one would like to participate in the collaboration? You've seen the list of activities. The first one is you're supporting a high-speed network between in the Asia Pacific Oceania region. The second biggest piece is the agreed on open backups between partners. We're open to having additional partners come on. I'm giving this talk because I got volunteered to be the coordinator for the first year. Every year, we're going to see who wants to be the coordinator for the next year. Our hope is to actually have meetings in person at APAN, and we can have conversations. So if there are other people with high-speed links in the area who would like to join this collaboration, by all means, reach out to us. We, in the MOU, it specifically had agreements for how to expand this. The APR collaboration always had that as a background thought, but we really put it up front and center, as you can see with the expanded partnership already. So I think that's it's a really important that this be as open and transparent as possible for everyone. I think a lot of the activities, they're mostly opt-in, opt-out, but every partner had several that they were looking at specifically. So for example, the Pacific Wave Group is especially interested in testbed support and especially interested in growing the PRP and ARP collaborations because of their support of that in California. Whereas, of course, my team is really interested in the routing group, the routing work and the measurement work, because that's grown out of some of our core competencies at home. So there's a lot of options there.
Right, Jennifer, what I'd like to add on is that we contribute what we can for the good of the whole community. And we don't count things, you know. So you know, Guam provided the hands-on on the exchange points on that part. So each one contributes their bit, and together we build a really beautiful network to serve the community as a whole. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really the idea here, is that by working together, we can create something and support something that's bigger than any one of us could do. Yeah. And we can support the science better I think that's one of the other pieces that's been really important to this team is this underlying belief that we're more than just a network. We're here to help the science and help the researchers to understand who's using our networks and to try to help them as we move forward, and to have that in mind as we grow the collaboration. Any other questions or comments? Oh, come on, there's 76 people in this room. Sure, Basuki, you've raised your hand. I think you can unmute yourself. I guess I'm looking at the high-level host. Can Basuki unmute himself, or does he need to type the question into the chat room?
Yes, I've been unmute by.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer, for supporting us. Yeah. The problem, because this is the NREN. I think at least around Indonesia, Indonesia, or I don't know, maybe Malaysia, but yeah, I'm talking about Indonesia. Right now, Indonesia just only have one network, one stream from the tape. Even there is a many cable across Indonesia. It is, even from Australia, and even from even from through the Selat Malacca Strait, go to the Europe, but just limited drop in Indonesia. Except the commercial, but for the NREN, I think it's quite difficult. Even we try to use the IRU scheme at least 10 to 5 to 10 years ago, but nobody wants to accept about the IRU. Because usually, I don't know exactly, but this is my feeling, personally feeling, because this is 10, at least this 10 years, we have been try with the from the 10 Star CC, try to do the IRU scheme, but almost all, but not all, but almost all the people, the cable provider reject the IRU, especially for the NREN. That's
it can be challenging. I mean, we had first looked into trying to do something like this 5 or 6 years ago, and we weren't successful either. So I think, part of what has allowed us to do it this time is we've had a number of interests and a number of people who were in a position where they could move with their different project timescales. So some of it's just luck. But I'll suggest, in your case, maybe you don't need a personal link between, Indonesia and, the US. If you could get to Singapore, then you can ride some of the other links that are there for the rest of your passage. You mentioned going to Europe as well. I should say we're collaborating actively with the CAE groups, especially Francis, of course, who's part of both of these collaborations, to try to make sure that the traffic gets directed correctly, because we see a lot of traffic that crosses both the Pacific and the Atlantic to go between Asia and Europe, and now we've got direct paths to do that. So I think that's one of the other really nice facets of the APONET collaboration, is it's allowing us to have a more global scale to collaborate in this space.
That's the we try to just make a IRU between the Jakarta and the Singapore. If it's not really success, even still the provider didn't want to give some.
I'm sorry, Dr. Jennifer. Because it is because of the limit of the time, so we should proceed for the next item of the agenda of today's agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course. Thank
Okay.
you very
Well, thank
much.
you
We
very
really
much,
appreciate
Dr.
this.
Jennifer. It's short discussion, but very inspiring and also insightful in this event. All right, our participants, ladies and gentlemen. So we are now proceeding to the next item of today's agenda. That is the panel session. This panel session of the third day of the 52 APAN will be chaired by Dr. Seema. So Dr. Seema is a Deputy Director General and Director Operations at National Informatics Center, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Government of India. She is a distinguished and a committed professional with more than 25 years of rich experiences in various technologies, including networks, security, directory services, messaging services, and so forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dr. Seema. The time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. And thank you. We are going to be having the next panel. Before we start the next panel, I would request if we can have a 1-minute silence for the governor from Myanmar, Rector Meme. She passed away on 30th, and I think we owe it to her memory to remember her today and have a 1-minute silence. Can we have a snap, please? If thank you. Can we go back to the panel? All right, so let's start the panel now. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on whatever time zone you are in. And as the Indonesian said, Salamat Sore. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So welcome to the panel discussion on the NREN needs assessment, a very critical topic that we've been trying to pursue for a while now, NNA as we call it. Before we start, let me introduce the panelists that we have with us connected today. We have with us from the NNA team that 2 members, that includes CEO, Mr. Roshan Ragel. He's also the Vice Chair of the Steering Committee Asia Connect. We also have from Learn CTO, Mr. Asita Bandranaike. From BDREN, we have the CEO, Mr. Mohammad Tavrit, and Engineering Manager, Mr. Arifin Rashawadil. We are thankful for having them, having led this initiative and invest a lot of effort in identifying the gaps, which was the primary objective of the NNA. We also have with us the NREN representatives from Afghanistan, Ms. Shukriya Jamal. She's the Director of Information Technology at the Ministry and manages all public universities, including Afghan-REN, NREN. From Nepal, we have Mr. Rajan Parajuli, Director of Nepal Research and Education Network. He's currently overseeing a feasibility study for national expansion of research and education network in Nepal. And the outcomes of NNA should help him in his vision for NREN. So we hope this is going to be very beneficial for him. Dr. Francis Lee, Associate Professor, Nanyang Technical University, Singapore, is also part of the panel. He's the founding president of Singapore Advanced Research and Education Network, SINGAREN. He's the current chair of the Board of Advisors for Trans-Eurasia Information Network Cooperation Center, TNST, STAR CC as we know it, and the steering committee member of Asia Connect. His background makes him a valuable asset in this panel, and we're really looking forward to his insights. We have with us Mr. Sang Kyung Kim, Head of Project Management Team at TN Cooperation Center. He's actively involved in coordinating and promoting technical and application collaboration research and activities with R&E community in Asia and beyond. He's representing TAN, which is the backbone for this initiative. Now, before we get into the panel discussions, let me set the tone for this by asking the basic question that we all want to hear regarding NNA. What is NNA, and why is there a necessity for conducting the NREN Needs Assessment? The NREN Needs Assessment grant project was initiated by TN*CC under the Asia Connect project. The primary objective of this project was to understand the needs of the NREN partners. It aims to provide a comprehensive insight and analysis of the NREN needs leading to activities that will benefit the NRENs. We had a lot of discussions, a lot of brainstorming before we eventually rolled out the NNA initiative. And we had a very clear mindset on what we wanted to achieve at the end of it. And we were lucky enough to have a very brilliant team to lead this initiative, and they'll be sharing a finding subsequently. The information is gathered through both surveys, that's how the process went, and interviews with various NREN organizations and some of their members. NNA will prove to be a key milestone in Asia Connect's commitment to support the development of the LDCs and low middle income countries. NNA is expected to develop tailored activities fitted into respective NREN situation and will further raise their capabilities and promote more collaborations. That is what we want to achieve at the end of it. With this as the introduction, let me invite Sang-Kyun to share with us the background and motivation for NNA and what led it to us. Please, Sang-Kyun, it's all yours. Please tell us what motivated us as TN and Asia Connect to initiate the process of NNA.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Sang-Kyun Kim from TN Corporate Center, and I'd like to briefly introduce the background and the motivation of NNA. As the NNA's assessment is try to identify the practical requirements in terms of administration, network, service, technology, and Asia Connect. Our project is will promote and then focus the project. And based on this conducting the NNA's assessment, we try to ensure the future direction of the Asia Connect and the selection of the proposal dedicated to this particular requirement. The content and subtopic will be included some human resources, visibility, the capacity development, and financial stability and collaborations, organization management, and governance. At the beginning of our project consideration, we try to see some scope of work as basic information gathering to survey the needs and the in-depth online meeting for clearing understanding of the survey, and then develop model and methodology and needs assessment. Based on that, we try to recommend with some action plan for NREN development. For doing this, in the framework of the needs and needs assessment, including the organization, management, governance, and technology and service, communication awareness, and collaboration, research and tech advancement, and additional service is treated. So, based on our consideration, we awarded the Learn and Bidder and as a subcontractor, as a player of these activities, and 15 beneficiary NRENs are targeted, and the 12 NRENs are completed. And the plenary release are video conferencing application administration capacity development. And for doing this, we have developed some models and some surveys and a lot of the video conference with the partners. So in detailed information will be followed from the NNA team. Thank you.
Thank you, Sang-Kyun. And okay, I really like this screen. I hope somebody's taking a snap of that. All key members of the panel right here. And I also wanted to ask, before we actually move on to the next question, that I was going through the profiles of everyone because I wanted to briefly introduce you, and everybody's got such brilliant snaps there except mine. I look like I've been beaten and made to sit over there and do it. So I'll go back and find out from where you got the thing done. But brilliant. This is a piece that I'm going to carry in my image. So now let's move to the next section of the NNA panel and go to the team who's been doing the heavy lifting. So we have all the key stalwarts connected with us today. So can you please now hand over the whole thing to the team? And I would like to understand from them their roadmap, the progress, the preliminary findings, and anything else they feel is necessary that needs to be shared with the audience regarding the whole process of NNA and what have they achieved so far. So over to the NNA team. Any one of you can please begin who would like to initiate the discussions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Seema. That was a great introduction, and I think set the tone for the entire thing. And thank you, Sangyun, as well for that that introduction. So I will start off. We'll give you a brief background of the roadmap progress and the preliminary findings, and then we can move on to the questions and other things that you can have, so on. Okay, let me just get on with the presentation first. This is about the NREN need assessment, or the NNA, and as I said, roadmap progress and the preliminary findings. So as mentioned by Seema, we both BD, REN and LEARN work together in this one, doing this. So let us first move on to the roadmap that we set for ourselves at the beginning. So the plan was to have, as Seema mentioned, to have NREN survey of the 7 beneficiary NRENs, and then also have a survey among the member universities of the 17 beneficiary NRENs, and also to follow up these surveys with the one-to-one interviews among the 17 beneficiaries in order to clarify any doubts, and also to get more qualitative data from the NREN. And with that one, we hope to go towards analyzing this data to get to do need identification, need classification, and need prioritization in order to come up with proposals for need mitigation. And then once we have done this analysis, we would get the feedback from the NRENs itself in terms of workshops to iron out any doubts or any issues, and then compile the final report that would be submitted to Time-Star CC. So if you look at the progress that we have made so far, the NREN by July 30th, that is. So the NREN survey, we have 12 completed the survey by now, whereas 2 have declined to participate, and we are waiting the participation of 3 more members. And with respect to the NREN member survey, we have 52 responses, but just from 6 economies. So we are looking at improving that as well. And with respect to the interviews, we have followed this the surveys with the interviews. Actually, to 2 members, we actually did the survey and the interview together. So we have 11 of them complete, and then the rest of the numbers matching with the survey responses. So at the moment, we are actually looking at the need mitigation process by looking at the preliminary findings, where we are doing the need identification, classification, and mitigation. And we are hoping to have the NREN feedback towards the mid-August, mid of this month, with the hope of compiling the final report and submitting the NNA results by the end of this month. Now, before moving on to the rest of the things, we wanted to start with the challenges that we had with the process, just to get an idea, what as it would help moving forward and future such activities as well. So we can look at these challenges in 3 different areas. First part was setting the survey questionnaire and the analysis model. Now we were very, very thorough, and we had to go through a lot of cycles to do this, because from on the one side, we wanted to reduce the survey burden to ensure that everybody would respond, and the time that take and the effort that they would have to do was minimal. but also ensuring that we capture sufficient amount of data. But on addition to this thing, we also wanted to ensure that we ignite the thought process of the NRNs, so that they would also start thinking about their needs and what is needed and so on. So I think we have been quite successful. There's a lot more to do, which we will see at the end. And then the survey and interview process, I would say, had been the most challenging to get the survey responses from NRENs and NREN members, as I mentioned in the previous slide as well, and also scheduling the interviews. So that has been the most challenging part so far, basically getting more engagement from the NRENs. And moving on to the data analysis and final report. The challenging part has been, clarifying, correcting, and normalizing, pruning data, so that we can identify the specific parameters and assign the proper weightage to fit in the model, so that it will give us the proper results. And also looking at the currently the next challenge is to ensure that our report is meaningful, it's functional, it's acceptable to everybody, and also implementable, that is practical results that we give. So we are rising up to the challenge. We hope that we will come up with a good report in that sense. And since we're talking about the model, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the big picture of our model. This is what it looked like. So Taurit, would you like to explain this in brief?
Yeah, thank you, Asita. Actually, this is a complex model, but I will try to make it as simple as possible for the audience in short amount of time. So if we look at the bottom right box, the yellow box, the financing framework, that is actually the brain of this model. Okay, so the brain is being triggered by input number 4, that is the strategies. So the strategies of allocation of fund will be defined inside the strategy box, and how it will decide. It needs some input, right? So the input will be provided by input number 1 and 2. What is in input 1? Input 1 will define the maturity level of the NREN. So how the maturity will be defined? That will be defined by a separate model that is in the upper left corner, that is maturity model. The maturity model of every NREN will be defined by many different parameters, NREN coverage, NREN lifetime, and there are many different parameters. We are not going into the details. So one will provide the NREN maturity level, and then the next input will be the number 2 input, that is the need impact. Need impact is a function of need coverage and need priority. Need priority is easily understandable, that is the severity of the need, and need coverage will be identified by the number of NRENs who are in need of that need. So that will be identified by need coverage, and both of them will define the need impact. Now, based on input 1 and input 2, the brain or the strategy will identify whether that need is addressable. If that need is addressable, then input 3 will come into picture. Which mitigation tools will be applicable to address that need? We have identified 3 mitigation tools, that is targeted closed CFPs, targeted open CFPs, and general CFPs. So based on the need prioritization and need coverage, the need mitigation tools will come into picture, and the strategy will define the need that is addressable and which mitigation tools will be applicable. That is the simplest form of this model I could explain. Thank you. Thank you, Asita.
Yeah, thank you very much, Taurit. So that's the simplest form, as you can understand. So we won't go into any more details of that. Moving on. As you can see, the biggest part is actually the brain and the experience and the what we bring in, the team has brought in to analysis. We have used simple tools mainly for different things. I'm not going to talk much about that. And so let me move on to the need identification process before we move on to the findings. So how we have done it in our model is to not only to look at the expressed and the needs that are identified in the interviews. We have also looked at the strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So this was done for the simple reason that for two sides. One is actually the entrants might not be even aware of their needs or the possibilities, and also to ensure that we corroborate the expressed and identified needs in terms of strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. So we are not just getting the information from one side, but we just ensure that all this information is matched, corroborated, so we have a right metrics to move forward. So that ensures that our input data are validated before being analyzed. So moving forward, we'll be looking at preliminary findings where we look at the need classification and identification and mitigation. And once again, I would like to invite Taurich to explain this and move forward.
Okay, then the first thing that is coming up is need classification and need impact. So if you can remember, I showed you over there the input number 2. So here input number 2 had two parameters. One was priority, need priority, and one was need coverage. And both of them combinedly made the need impact. So the need impact is defined here in each and every cell, and each individual parameter like need coverage is defined in the columns and need priority is defined in the rows. So it is a two-dimensional matrix. The input number 2 is defined here. So it is easily understandable. One thing you should understand that we have divided need coverage into 3 different sections. One is isolated need. If one need is found to be addressed for only one entrant. One is scattered, if few entrants are having a need of that, and one is widespread, if most of the entrants are in need of satisfying that need. So if it is widespread, that means most of the entrants are looking for getting that need addressed. And if the priority is high, that means severity of need is high, we mention that the impact will be highest. So quite understandably, if the priority is high, but if it is only applicable for a few entrants, then the impact will be high, not highest. And vice versa. If the coverage is maximum, but priority is medium, then also it will be considered as high. For other low priority needs, it will be considered as medium priority or low priority or lowest priority. Can we move to the next slide? Okay, then once needs are classified as per impact, then we need to identify all the needs and place them in the impact matrix. That has been done here. Suppose for video collaboration application, the coverage is widespread because most of the entrants are looking for that need to be addressed at this moment due to the very pandemic. And the severity of the need is also high. That's why it has been placed in the upper leftmost box, because the impact is also highest. We can see another need like isolated need. Suppose allocation of AS number. That need pertains to a particular entrant, but the priority of that need for that entrant is highest because they are losing their customers because of their customers not having AS numbers. That's why priority is high, but as it covers only one entrant, that's why we call the impact as medium impact. So that's about the need identification and putting them, need classification and putting them in an impact matrix. Then in the next slide, in the left side, we have identified the needs, we know the impact, and we know which needs are to be addressed, which need are not to be addressed. Only one thing is missing there, if you can correctly remember, that input number 1, that is maturity level. If we bring the maturity level here, then it would have become a 3-dimensional table, and we didn't want to make it as complex as that. But that will definitely come into the picture when we will submit our report. So one needs are identified, and once we know the impact of each needs, then the need mitigation process will come into picture. So what need mitigation process we are suggesting? We are suggesting targeted closed CFPs and targeted open CFPs in addition to general CFPs, with the consideration that the closed CFPs and open CFPs which are targeted will take less amount of time than general CFPs. So why we need less amount of time? Because the priority of the need is high. So if the priority of the need is high, we cannot wait for general CFPs to come and get the need addressed. That's why when the priority is high, we are recommending either targeted closed CFPs or targeted open CFPs. Now, what is the difference? Targeted closed CFPs will be addressed for a particular NREN, but targeted open CFPs will be addressable to scattered, that means a few NRENs are involved, or widespread need, that is most of the NRENs are in need of that. So that is the difference between targeted CFPs and general CFPs. General CFPs are the CFPs that are there in existing situation that 10-star CC is going ahead with, like CFP 1 to CFP 5, all are considered general CFPs. Please, Asita.
Yeah, thanks, Tawrit. We'll try to wrap up as soon as possible. We have also learned a lot of lessons, so I'm not going to go into details. We are actually running behind time. So one of the biggest things I think we need to highlight is the diversity for the culture, the perspective, and also the salient issues of, terms of creation, development, and, the formation of NRENs. So so this will be, we will be adding this to our reports and going forward. So because identifying this actually given us a lot of insight to how to conduct these things, moving forward to identify specific needs, that cannot be done in a very generic surveys or questionnaires. So we need to identify that, and when we move forward, that we need to include that. So because of that one, there's also suggestions that that we have added how to do the need identification in the future, not only through the future NNAs and things like APAN working group meetings, but also to have bilateral meetings so that we can keep updating about the information intermittently while conducting these kind of NNAs with more insight in the future. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. And over to you, Seema.
Thank you, Asita. Thank you. And thank you, Tawrit. I think we owe a big thank you to you and your team, all of you, for the tremendous work that you have been doing. And although we have been involved as part of this, as part of steering committee, but I think you gave a very good presentation, and that's kind of put things into perspective for the audience, which we, due to paucity of time, and I'm sorry I had to even interrupt your flow, but we just can't do anything about it. But due to the paucity of time, perhaps we'll be having more questions at the end of it. And when we have a social timeout, we can discuss more there. But I'm sure the audience has now got a general better picture of what we're trying to do here with NNA. And you did mention a few challenges which you encountered as part of your endeavor. So now we need to hear from the other side of the story also. And for that reason, we had requested the NREN representatives from Afghanistan and Nepal to join with us. And we have with us Shukriya and Rajan. So what I have a same question to both of you, Shukriya and Rajan, and what I would like to ask is similar to the NNA team from your side, what according to you is something that you want to look for in the outcomes of what the NNA team is trying to do, and what according to you would be your challenges as part of the developing NREN and your priorities. So I'm just in the positive time, just touch upon it briefly and we can have more discussion on that later. So Shukriya, let's start with the ladies first. So let's go with you first and then we can have Rajan following it up. Thank you. Shukriya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Seema and colleagues joined today's panel. First of all, please let me thank Tin Star CC and NNA team for this initiative. I believe this will help NREN to prioritize most recent essential key requirements and expedite SFP selection and improve transparency, I believe. At the same time, to make sure we know everything about the NNA procedure and about the selection, and we are very clear about everything. I would like to ask some question first, and then maybe it's better to answer your question about the priorities and challenges on behalf of Afghanistan, which is a least developing country, if you're allowing me. Okay. First question from NNA team I would like to know about. My question is, what are the expected outcome of NNA, and how will these outcomes help developing and evolving NRENs in terms of their policy, governance, improving its education sector, network infrastructure, and reach them? So I don't know what's the procedure. We are going to answer question one by one, or should I list all the question and then have the answers? Seema, can you please help?
I think they can answer in general. Whoever chooses to answer that, maybe Asita or Tavrit. I think they can answer in general because we have a little positive time also. So Asita, Tavrit, any one of you, if you would broadly agree to answer.
Okay, actually, this is the need assessment process. The main problem that we could identify in the present process is the need identification, because it was only possible through CFPs. So the NRENs who were lagging behind, they don't know how to prepare a CFP or how to prepare a better CFP. That's why the big picture was missing. The 10-star CC or Asia Connect, from Asia Connect project, the finance was being allocated to the projects who could prepare a good quality CFP. But that might not be the need for the NRENs or for the NRENs who are really in need of that, for the NRENs who are at the lower level of their maturity. So that thing we tried to address in here, because we are not only depending on calling CFPs, general CFPs, we are going to the doorstep of each and every NREN to collect their need, then classify their need, put it in the model, and then identify how much importance it bears to that particular NREN and as well as to the community. So then what will be the process? We must identify a process. We cannot just give an NREN 100 euro and let them whatever they want to do. So there should be a proposal. But 10-star CC or the NREN which has that amount of strength will come into picture, okay, in terms of targeted open CFPs it can be, and they will help the needy NREN to prepare the proposal, and then the fund will be allocated. So the process of need assessment, need identification, need assessment, and addressing the need, everything is going to be changed. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Tavrit. So Shukriya, in short, what they're trying to do perhaps is the watch is yours. They're trying to help you see a time more properly. So they're trying to generate the more thing that they're trying to make you look at things with a clearer perspective on what exactly is required from you and how to structure it in the way you want it to be delivered to you. So that is their primary intent. So the watch is yours, but they're just telling you how to see the time in different time zones. So they're just helping you do that. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, great. So Rajan, would you like to add to something that Shukriya has said? Maybe your priorities and channels from a Nepal perspective. Would just request you to be brief about it. So we just over to you.
Thank you, Seema, for including us in this panel discussions. And I'd also like to extend my sincere thanks to all the NNA entire team. So they did a very hard work for to reach at this level. And as you already said, because of this NNA survey, we will have some benefit as well. Like for us, actually, we are saying these things from the very beginning of our NREN establishment as well, like the dropping research and education network link at member premises is not the last task that NREN need to do, right? So gradually it has been showing that we need more applications, we need more collaborations between NRENs and other universities. And the preliminary finding has already shown that the need of videocon and other applications so is somehow we are glad that gradually prioritizing for applications. So yeah, this is one of the main challenges that NWIN Nepal is currently facing, and this is one of our top priority as well, because we have a very few number of research collaborations and applications, and from our perspective, actually, we are not providing internet connections. So for us, research and collaboration applications is a very top priority to justify the investments over research and education network as well. So from that part, actually, this is research and collaborations and applications is the top priority. And I think this should be the priorities of other NRENs as well. So I think other are also agree on this. And beside this, other priorities like we are still a small number of user base. So is also linked with the lack of research collaborations and applications as well. And it is also due to the limited coverage of research and education network in our country. So that's the reason actually we are currently implementing the feasibility studies, and we are at the stage of the reports, and we have clearly found that there is a possibility to extend research and education networks more than 130 institutions across the country. So this is a good thing. And actually, this is the another priority that we are currently discussing. And at the same time, as you might be aware about the situations of NREN, actually we are a little different in terms of we are not getting direct funding from the governments. Though government has provided some funds for some earlier time, but that was not regular funds. So that's the why actually we are still struggling to find the revenue to pay the international shortcut costs. So that's the main reason. And at this moment, we are just thinking for, and we are working for the expansion of research and education networks all across the country. So obviously, the link upgrade will be one of our another priorities. And the good thing is after this COVID pandemic, government priorities is now shifted to build IT infrastructure and other services. So that is somehow good news for us. And we are in touch with university grant commissions and our concerned ministry as well. And I want to link here that because this NNA report will also helpful us for us to convince our government as well. I think because other NRENs are doing this, so we need and the government should spend for this. So it's like the example for other NRENs as well. So in that context, I'm very pleased that the report will directly benefit Nepal NREN as well. Yeah, I think this is my view. And in North Seal, actually, we need to reduce the current gap between the developed entrants and developing or new emerging entrants by better collaborations. And so yeah, so from that way, we can together build a better entrance. Yes,
Thank you, Raj.
over to you, Sima. Yeah.
Thank you, Rajan. I think thank you, Rajan and Shukra. You have echoed perhaps the concern of many NRENs. Of course, some challenges remain unique to every, like you have your own unique challenges. I'm aware of Nepal REN, I'm aware of the unique challenges that you face. I'm also very closely associated with Afghan REN, so I'm aware of their unique challenges also. But the larger concerns remain uniform across all developing HENRENs. Having said that, let's move on to Francis. He has been part of the NNA journey, and he also represents a
Okay, thanks,
perspective,
Hasima.
which he can perhaps share with us regarding how to bridge the gap of the developing and developed NRENs. So Francis, all yours.
I really sympathize with the NNA team. I was with them in some of the interviews. When we started the TN2 project with David West as the project manager, I was also one of the engineering people down there. And there was, what the TN2 goal was connectivity. Need was connectivity, because without connectivity, you can't do anything else. And so the early days was easy in that sense. The needs was very clear. That's what we wanted to do. Things have changed. Our family has grown bigger. You know, some family members have run a little bit faster, developed a little bit faster, and we will pull our other family members along. What I would like to say is that there's no one size fit all. The need analysis is just giving you a rough idea of what are the general needs and where there are common needs and how we could possibly address them. And what was shown was just a small glimpse, because it's on top of the applications, there's organizations, you know, your outreach. In actual fact, Rajan really pointed out a very important thing, and that's the engagement with the government and engagement with the members, because that's where the NREN is, to serve the members, and we really need the government help. You know, even a well-developed NREN will always need to engage the government. And I think that's where Tian-Star CC can come in. They has always have come in at the governmental level, because Tian-Star CC is formed at a very high government level and recognized by majority of the NREN governments. You know, when you tell them Tian-Star CC, yep, everyone stand up, yep, we know that. And that's why the APAN meetings been hosted and the Asia Connect and TN meetings running at face-to-face meetings at different developing countries is important, because that brings up the NREN profile to their government. You know, I'm very glad that the next APAN meeting will be in Bangladesh, and hope we'll assist in building it up. And Bangladesh has done very well. They have formed quite independent yet trust organization, quite unique. Sri Lanka has also done a very nice organization, very independent a little bit, and yet always engaged with the government. Okay, Singapore as well. We are a society, not for profit, but we are very closely engaged with the government. We have funding from the governments. So I think that's very important. Never forget that the engagement is critical. And to have a good engagement, you must have a good governance. You must have, the society or organization must have a good governance in it, a transparent governance, and which people look to and say, oh, that's good, and we want to be a member of it. And slowly, we will grow that. And no need to be a not-for-profit organization. You know, different NRENs develop differently. Preginet, Philippines, is under a ministry. Okay, Pakistan is under a ministry. Okay, Thailand is under a ministry. So different countries have different needs. Okay, that's all I have. And I'm very willing to, I'll be at the chat, okay, social chat, and I'll be there to have a chat with you all. And I'd like to hear from the other NRENs. Yeah.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you so much. And yes, I completely agree with you. I mean, I've very closely worked with Learn and with BD Ren when NKID was getting excited, and it was brilliant. I mean, I'm super impressed with the initiative both the Rens are taking, and they're developing so wonderfully. So I've interacted very nicely with them, and it's absolutely amazing. So yes, you're very right in saying about connectivity. You know, how many of you have seen the Bollywood movies? I mean, money always maintains that when you see the Bollywood movies, the only time you can appreciate the network, it's like the playback singer. When you're dancing without any song in the background, that's when you notice there's something missing. Otherwise, nobody notices the magic of a network, which is such a prerequisite today. You can't survive without a very strong connectivity. But the only time you notice is when somebody is dancing without the music. But having said that, I think thank you, everybody. It was absolutely wonderful, and you put a very good, unique perspective. But now we need to hear from the vehicle who's going to be driving the outcomes. I mean, the NNA team is going to do their part, and everybody is going to do everything nice. And we seem to be absolutely in track, and we would be having the report from the NNA team by the end of August. But what is TN proposing to do with that report? How do you plan to implement it, and what is your vision? So Sangyong, if you could share some ideas on how TN is planning to implement the outcomes of NNA, that would be very wonderful. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Shima, and thank you, NNA team and the panelists in this session. Thank you for your sharing your comment and thought that can be really helpful for us to prepare the next step. And for the way forward to based on this NNA result, and we try to itemize the requirement and the defined actions with considering priority and the feasibility. And after that, we need to discuss with our partner about the feasible solution from the defined requirements. Because as Francis already mentioned, every different admin has different circumstances and situations. So the result of our activity is kind of some limited information. So based on our discussion with our partner, that can be more clear, and we could find some good way. So and after that, we try to use this requirement for the selecting the actions. And then specifically, we could consider some events for administration and management support training for admins. So at this moment, we are still waiting for the final result of NNA's assessment, and based on that, we will try to follow up the actions with the comments and the discussion with our partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Sangyong. Yeah, I agree with you. Like Francis also said, there's not one single solution for all. So you would need to take the report and interpret it and the interpretation has to be unique to every NREN after their discussion and how to take it forward. You cannot possibly simply adopt the report without considering the unique challenges which Rajan and Shukriya mentioned, which is unique to their NREN. So you have to address that part also. So it's going to be equally challenging for you. It's going to be equally challenging for you. So I'm glad all of you stuck to your timelines, and I think we're very close to wrapping up, but NNA remains a very crucial element of the TN initiatives that we're going to roll out. So as Francis has already said, it would be wonderful if the panel connects on the spatial space after the session so that more questions can reach us and we can answer them well in time. We have a question here from Brooke that says that are the recommendations of the NNA report likely to influence the assessment of the fifth call for proposals? Brooke, if you're connected, we would like to take that in the spatial space when we are going to be having more questions, unless somebody cares to answer that now. Francis, would you like to answer that? Should you want me to repeat the question?
I'm looking at the questions. I think the current call is out. The next call will be quite focused, and I think it shouldn't be me. It actually is Sanju. It will be based on the input from the NNA. Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that, because the next one, because fifth call has already been announced, Brooke, and the NNA, if at all, if NNA is going to have an impact, it's going to be on the next call of proposals if and when we have it, because the current one has already been announced. So as of now, we don't think it's going to have an impact unless Sangyung wants to add to what me and Francis have already said. If you're okay with that, Sangyum, can we move on? Or would you like to say something? Are you okay with that? Yeah, okay. So Sangyum is nodding. So I'm assuming TN is also okay with that. So, all right. So with this, I would like to end this panel discussion with again a request for all the panel members to join in the spatial space. And I would like to take this opportunity to also thank APAN for allowing us and giving us a forum to present the NNA report, the preliminary findings, and the good work that the NNA team has been doing in trying to make a difference. We all are collectively here with one single intent, and that is to make a difference in everybody's life. So we hope we can achieve the end result in trying to stay together, work together, think together. So we all need to be like-minded and think towards one common cause. So with that, we end the panel discussion, and I thank the audience and the panel members for joining with us today, and see you soon, hopefully physically in Bangladesh, so that we can make Tavrit's life more miserable. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
See everyone at the spatial chat.
Welcome
Yes,
to
everybody at the
Bangladesh.
spatial chat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Most
you.
Thank you so
welcome,
much,
Sima,
all
to
the panelists.
Bangladesh.
Bye-bye.
Anytime.
Yeah, Bangladesh. Yeah.
Not only for APAN, anytime.
Okay, wonderful.
Right.
Open invitation to all. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Sima, and thank you all the speakers for very interesting presentation and also interesting discussion at today's panel session. All right, all participants, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the end of the panel session of the third day of 52nd APAN Asia Pacific Advanced Network hosted by Universitas Islam Indonesia. But after this, we will have a social time. So please, all participants, kindly check your chat box and please access the link to join for the partial chat and join the social time. Okay, the last from me. Thank you very much for your participation and attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you.
Since the launch of TAIN Initiative in 2001, TAIN has evolved into TAIN 2, TAIN 3, and TAIN 4, providing an extensive R&E network to the Asia-Pacific region. Now with Asia Connect, the success story of TAIN continues to enhance cooperation in research and education activities between Asia and Europe. What contribution does Asia Connect make? Asia Connect provides high-capacity and high-quality internet connectivity for research and education communities in the emerging economies, enabling them to take part in diverse new research and education opportunities. Asia Connect provides the capacity development programs for technical engineers and NREN managers so that they can make the most out of the opportunities it provides. Connecting Asia and Europe, Asia Connect enhances opportunities to leverage the e-infrastructure with high-performance networks and research collaborations for social benefit. Asia Connect contributes sustainable development goals by bridging the digital divide and brings Asia together by fostering digital and human connectivity.